Nervous about what? You're the expert here.
I feel like I have a lot to learn. Who is in the game for these elections?
I think there's only one answer to that. Whether you
fair.
like the party or not, there's only one answer.
What do you think are the issues or the concerns that are going to be at the top of voters' minds?
You're a voter. What do you care about?
I care about money. Social media has also been headline news the past 24 hours here in Pakistan.
Yes.
How do you think that it's impacting elections?
This is creating chaos. So
Can we do it again? I'm Sabah Bano Malik.
And I'm Arifa Noor.
And today we're bringing you a special election edition of Unfiltered on DawnNews English. Ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go. I'm very ready. Kind of nervous, but ready.
Nervous about what? You're the expert here.
I feel like I have a lot to learn.
About elections, but not about
other things. No.
Not about being on camera, not about talking, just
talking to you, very good at that. I would say I've nailed that. All right, so let's get right into it. Elections are coming up.
Yes.
What an exciting time. Nerve-wracking, maybe?
Yes, exhausting, nerve-wracking, everything. I'm not so sure about the excitement.
Yeah, I would say every journalist I've spoken to in the last few weeks has been like,
we've seen better elections.
Yes.
Let's put it this way.
Fair. Okay, now let's tell the people. Who is in the game for these elections?
You want to talk about the political parties? You want to talk about individuals? Which would you prefer?
Who do you think people should be paying attention to the most?
Well, the political parties, I suppose. There's obviously the PMLN, which everybody thinks is the blue-eyed favorite, the chosen one, whatever you want to call it.
I think that's a fair phrase.
There's the Pakistan People's Party. There's also the PTI. Let's see how far they get or they don't, but they're definitely there. Then we have a smattering of other parties. Some of them are what we call the nationalist parties because they're limited to certain regions or certain provinces. So you will have something, someone like the ANP, the Awami National Party, which is present only in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. You will have an ethno-nationalist party like the MQM, which you will only see in the urban areas of Sindh. You see, a few political parties which are predominantly present only in Balochistan. So you have a number of smaller parties. You have a number of religious parties like the Jamaat-e-Islami, the TLP. They also have a very significant presence, not in terms of the number of seats they might win, but in terms of what they can do in a particular constituency by pulling away or attracting votes that could have determined another winner. Yeah. So, we have a wide variety of political parties.
And I would say as my own, what I've noticed definitely as a person who lives on the internet, is seeing a lot of independent people kind of coming in and joining parties, smaller parties coming in, people running for positions or getting tickets. I don't know, I saw people sharing their symbols, that their symbols have been a lot of conversation. So
there are a couple of new players this time around because they're both what you call breakaway factions from PTI. Yeah. One is in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, a former chief minister of PTI has formed his own party, Parvez Khattak. So he has, he's attracted a lot of people who were originally in PTI in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Jahangir Tareen has done the same in Punjab. He's also attracted people. They were sent to both of these, however you want to call it. And then, the independent candidates are always there in the elections. But this time around, technically there are a lot more because the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has just been deprived of its symbols. So everybody who was till about a week ago a candidate for PTI or is still a candidate of PTI will be contesting the election as an independent candidate.
Yes, fair. Well, Pakistan.
Pakistan,
Thumbs
exactly.
up for us. So my next question, what we want to know is what people care about. What do you think are the issues or the concerns that are going to be at the top of voters' minds, and how have political parties catered or answered those in the past few weeks? The expression on your face is like, they haven't, but have they?
You're a voter. What do you care about?
Honestly, at this point, I hate to say it because we're talking about elections here, and I know it's hard for people not to feel disenfranchised, but I care most about people voting, to be honest, and actually going in there and counting their vote and it mattering. And I think next to that, it has to be Mengai. I care about money. I care about Pakistan being a profitable place to live and a livable by cost place to live, if that makes sense.
I think you're spot on. I think the main issue for a large number of people is inflation. It's about how difficult life has become for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's perhaps something that has worked to the advantage of PTI because, you know, after the vote of no confidence, for all intents and purposes, it seemed to be the only political party that was in the opposition.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're angry about inflation, you're angry about the cost of living, the easiest or the immediate reaction of the average voter is we're going to vote against the government.
Yeah.
So that works to the advantage of the opposition, and you know there seemed to be only one party in opposition, and that was the PTI.
Yeah.
So that's basically it. So I think you're absolutely right. The economy, and not the economy in the grand sense, you know, the way we talk about it when we say, oh, there needs to be more exports and we need structural reform. For the ordinary person, they don't care. They just want the economy, you know, they want a better life.
Yeah. I think it's just they want to be able to afford to eat.
Exactly.
They don't want to make a choice between one absolutely necessity that they need to live versus another one.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm coming from a place of privilege, and even I'm saying like, whoa, like every time I go and get groceries, it is a shock to the system. So yeah, I think that's gotta be the leading situation. And I also think people are honestly looking for a lot more transparency. I feel like our politics don't allow for a ton of that. I don't think they put a lot of respect to voters and what we might be thinking about. But I think the more and more we're learning and the more exposure we're getting to politicians and politics, people are like, hold up, I want a politician who's gonna talk to me straight, no like run around, if that makes sense.
Fair enough, fair enough. And I think that is, I think you could perhaps say that in a way people are sick and tired of the lies that politicians tell. Lies in the sense that, you know, you're promising the world, or you're saying we will do this or that, while the people are very well aware that you don't mean anything, or that what you do practically in your personal life or in your public life doesn't hold up to that.
Yeah. And I think it's like enough mudslinging. Tell us what you plan to do. What is the actual plan? I think a lot of people now are like, Acha, we get it. You are better than him.
Yeah.
But what do you plan on doing about that?
So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And as you said, you know, we're coming from a place of privilege, but for a large number of people now, inflation basically means, do you feed yourself or do you send your kids to school?
Exactly.
It's become as basic as that.
Yeah. And that might feel very far away for some of our politicians.
Yes,
very
far.
It's
a galaxy far away.
It's so far away. I mentioned social media, so let's talk about it. Social media has also been headline news the past 24 hours here in Pakistan. How do you think that it's impacting elections? Maybe the way parties are using it or the way voters are using it?
You know, I mean, the point is whether it's the election cycle or anything else, there are two things. What is primary is the idea of news.
Yes.
And it's the idea of news and the idea of communication. That is what news is, you know. It is what is happening and how do you get it to the people. So the means keep changing. If it was the telegram at one time, if it was the newspaper at one time, the radio, then television, now it's social media. So it's just a means of communication. I don't think that the essentials change. It's just a new medium, and it's a medium where you have less, perhaps the gatekeepers are losing their relevance because, you know, it is a medium in which every person who has a phone can become the receiver of news. He or she can be the one who sends out the news. So you're cutting out, you know, the gatekeeper. That gatekeeper was me at some stage as a journalist. That gatekeeper was the government at one stage, or is. So it's a new medium. It's a medium which is making it more democratic in a way. And I think to me personally, a lot of the noise is also because we are uncomfortable, because we're all losing our privilege. The government is,
media.
The media is.
Yeah.
So we talk about it. Yes, it comes. And every time you have that kind of a democratic transition, even in the form of communication, the first reaction from the people of privilege or the institution is, this is creating chaos. So it's exactly like when you had the printing press and the first Bible or the Gutenberg Bible was printed, or you had the first, I think it was Martin Luther, who was. So the idea is not the idea is how can an ordinary person do this? How can the ordinary person challenge my authority by sort of saying that he has a better interpretation of events? So it's always interpreted as chaos and
I
instability.
Think for people listening, I would take the power away from like what you just said, that there is so much power in being on social media and using it to get the good word
You're
out.
the queen?
I was going to say, I am a journalist. Like, I've done traditional print media. I've moved into digital, but I've always been loud when it came to Twitter, my house. And it's interesting to see. I think you've really kind of nailed it on the head, that there is a bit of like, hold on a second, like let us get to you and explain it to you first.
Yes, exactly. Or that there's fake information and there's disinformation. But the point is that all you're complaining about is the fact that you have lost your privilege to decide what is information.
And to get that narrative. And especially, I mean, not to move away from elections in our own country, but we're seeing where people who aren't as learned about social media and propaganda, other countries perhaps,
yes, exactly.
They're losing this war because they're not understanding that you cannot control a narrative which other people can actively participate in.
Exactly.
Very interesting. I like to say, is there a political party that you think is doing pretty good in social media? They've got it.
I think there's only one answer to that. Whether you like the party or not, there's only one answer, and that's PTI. They've, but I think it's also, unlike, again, it hints at the change in society. That, for example, you're younger than me, you will be better at social media. PTI is the younger party. It is. So this is the sign of evolution and change. If you are in a position of privilege, you do not want to accept change. It is only the person who's coming in from below, who is not in that position but wants to get there, will say, okay, what is new in this world that I can latch on to, which it's Steve Jobs. So it's that kind of a thing. It is you in your individual capacity. It's PTI in the political sector.
You're like firing me up. I'm like, should I run? Should I run
Go
for
ahead.
the election?
Go ahead.
Okay, so our last question that we're going to get into is around the world. Think about how elections might change things between Pakistan and other countries, or where we are right now in the political landscape. Because right now we're in a very strange world time. I would say like the world is sort of...
The world is changing. The geostrategic balance, whatever you want to call it, the tectonic plates of world politics are shifting. So Pakistan has, is also now in a way at a loss, because we don't know where this world is going. The old one is kind of shifting around us. We had a place in that, or we thought we had a place in it.
For decades, really.
Exactly. But now it's changing. So Pakistan doesn't know what the new world is going to look like and what our place in that world will be. So I think, we are in some ways floundering, and we will continue to flounder even after the elections, because none of the political parties also know how to deal with this new world.
Fair.
But I think before we get around to dealing with the world outside, we have to figure out how we're going to deal with the world within. We haven't even figured that out.
Very fair. And again, if you're voting, that's probably at the top of your mind. Well, Arifa, thank you so much for talking to me today. I feel like I've learned a lot. I feel very empowered, as I'm saying.
Thank you. It was great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and make sure you keep paying attention to DawnNews English, because we have so much election content coming. You're definitely going to be seeing these faces again. And let us know in the comments. What are you thinking about for elections? Bye.
Bye.